एकम् अक्षरम् हृदि निरन्तरम् भासते स्वयं लिख्यते कथम् हृदय कुहर मध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रम् यहमहम् इति साक्षात् आत्मरूपेण भाति हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वता मज्जता पवनचलनरोधा आत्मनिष्ठो भवतु देहं मृण्मयवत् जडात्मकम् अहं बुद्धिर्न तस्यास्त्यतो नाहं तत्तत भावशुद्धिसमये सिद्धात्मसद्भावचः कोऽहं भावयुतः कुतो वरहियत् दृष्टात्मनिष्ठात्मा सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचल शिवः विभाति स्वयं सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचल शिवः विभाति स्वयं Namo Ramana. In this, our Thursday Satsangh from Ramanacentre Center for Learning, the South Bangalore Center. As usual, we will be reading from Guruvachka Kovai by Muruganath Swamigal. 2 verses we will be reading. Each verse reading will be followed by a short meditation on its meaning, and that will be followed by a 10-minute practice of Atma Vicharam. After these 2 segments are completed, there will be a summing up by our President, Dr. Shardaka, and that will be followed by an offering of Sri Ramananjali by Vaibhavji and Prapna. We begin our evening satsang by taking one verse, the first one from Guruvachka Kovai. There are 3 segments in the work: investigation, meditation, and experience. Today we are getting a verse from Meditation on the Truth. The segment under which we are reading this is Upasana or worship. And the verse we are going for is 590. Verse number 519. Since it is very rare for faith to arise in something, should such a faith be born in anyone, that person should, with devotion, unwaveringly protect and nurture that newborn baby as if it were the wish-fulfilling cow of heaven, Kamadhenu. Since it is very rare for faith to arise in something, should such a faith be born in anyone, that person should, with devotion, unwaveringly protect and nurture that newborn babe as if it were the wish-fulfilling cow of heaven, Kamadhenu. There is a note from Muruganar Swamigal and a note from Sivaprakash Pillai's work. Muruganar Swamigal, it is natural for everyone to experience doubts and wrong understanding. Since these are limitless, firm peace of mind will not be attained so long as they exist. The faith that arises in the Jnana Guru is alone the boat that transports one across the sea of samsara. Muruganar Swamigal says, it is natural for everyone to experience doubts and wrong understanding. Since these are limitless, firm peace of mind will not be attained so long as these doubts and wrong understandings exist. The faith that arises in the Jnana Guru is alone the boat that transports one across the sea of samsara. We go on to Sivaprakash Pillai's work, Sri Ramanapadesham, verse 1. The blemishless Sri Ramana said, take either God or Guru as your Lord. Until you attain liberation, keep in your heart the conviction that you are his subject. Remain without desires and live according to his command. O foolish mind, why do you forget this and get deluded? Sivaprakash Pillai on our behalf is addressing the mind. He is saying, the blemishless Sri Ramana said, take either God or Guru as your Lord. Until you attain liberation, keep in your heart the conviction that you are his subject. Remain without desires and live according to his command. O foolish mind, why do you forget this and get deluded? Says Pillai to all of us. Faith is the Kamadhenu, is the Kalpa Vriksha. It is said that both Kamadhenu and Kalpa Vriksha arose in the Samudra Mantana along with the Amritam. These two were born in that Mantanam as wish-fulfilling beings. The Kalpa Vriksha, Kalpataru and Kamadhenu both represent the wish fulfilling ability of God as per our needs. Faith is the Kalpataru, faith is the Kamadhenu, says Gurunath Swamigal. We have seen in Bhagavan's Satcharitam, in Bhagavan's life, that what is so difficult when the intellect is involved with all its doubts and misunderstandings, which are limitless, says Gurunath Swamigal. We have seen after great struggle what the Jnana Margis get overcoming these limitless doubts, these endless misunderstandings of the intellect. The same Padavi has been attained by Lakshmi Amma, by Mudaliar Party, by Ramanath Brahmachari. Even the great devotees who have followed Jnana Marga in Bhagavan have been great devotees. See Sivaprakasham Pillai Wal, to whom the Upadesham of Who Am I itself was given, who was a BA philosophy in those days. He is a total devotee. He says, have total faith in the Jnana Guru or God. Be his subject. Don't have any desires. Whatever he brings about, whatever the Lord brings about, let him also give us the peace of mind and acceptance to live by what he has given. He himself has lived without even asking for salt when it was not available. When T.K. Sundaresh Iyer says he will go to the town to get some salt, Bhagavan says, next it will be dal, then it will be seasonings. No, let us eat what God has given. Let us consume this gruel and see how sattvic it is. Not only should we consume it, we should see what God has protected us from. Salt also has rajasic quality. From that, God is protecting us today. He is giving us total sattvic food, which is not only good for the body, but also for the mind, says Bhagavan, and shares the gruel with everyone. Now that is what he is teaching us here. And once we get that faith, it is like the baby that has come to be nurtured, to be taken care of. We should never allow it to be disturbed. We should never allow our intellect to interfere with it. We should not allow our discussions with friends to extend it to that area where that Kamadhenu will be disturbed, where that Kalpavriksha will be disturbed. We should protect it. We should nurture it. We should always keep saying, Bhagavan is taking care. My life, the life of all devotees is taken care of by Bhagavan. Why should I worry? He will take care. Have not all the devotees come to the Purnatva through devotion to our Bhagavan? That is probably the import of this verse. Each one of us should meditate in our own way and protect and nurture the Kamadhenu, the Kalpataru of faith. With that faith in Bhagavan, whose grace alone could have brought us to this Brahmastram of Atmaviccara. Let us sit in the practice of self-inquiry for 10 minutes. With Bhagavan's immense grace, as thoughts arise, let us not pursue them with more thoughts, but with great care, with Shraddha, with diligence. Let us ask, for whom? For whom has this thought arisen? The answer will always be the same, bringing us to Ekagrata. This thought has arisen for me. Then take that attention which was going behind thought and fix it on its source by asking, who am I? With repeated practice of taking back the ray of attention which was wandering back to its source, Bhagavan assures one will gain the strength of staying at the source. With Bhagavan's immense grace, let us sit in practice of Atmaviccara for 10 minutes. Vaibhavji, you are available?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, can send the time. for us?
Yes, sir. I'll set the times.
Thank you. Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramananjali. We go on to the reading of the second verse. This is also from the segment Meditation on Truth, on the Truth. The subsegment is Displaying Ignorance. Displaying Ignorance, verse number 598. There are two notes, both from the talks. The verse goes like this. Those with body consciousness, when they see a perfected jnani who abides as that, ask, in an attempt to define the state of supreme jnana, look, if their state is non-dual, how can they perform activities such as eating and so on? Such people are in fact proclaiming their identification with the inert body. Those with body consciousness, when they see a perfected jnani who abides as that, when they ask, in an attempt to define the state of supreme jnana, look, if the jnani's state is non-dual, how can they perform activities such as eating and so on? Then such people are in fact proclaiming their identification with the inert body. The first talk is talk number 432. The segment taken from that goes like this. Question. Self-realized jnanis are seen to take food and do actions like others. Do they similarly experience the state of dream and of sleep? Bhagavan. Why do you seek to know the state of others? Vedi jnanis. What do you gain by knowing about others? You must seek to know your own real nature. What do you think that you are? Evidently, the body. Question, yes. Questioner says yes. Bhagavan. Similarly, you take the jnani to be the visible body, whereon the actions are superimposed by you. That makes you put these questions. The jnani himself does not ask if he has the dream or the sleep state. He has no doubts himself. The doubts are in you. This must convince you of your wrong premises. The jnani is not the body, he is the self of all. The second talk is talk number 499. Bhagavan. Jnana and ajnana are of the same degree of truth. That is, both are imagined by the ignorant. That is not true from the standpoint of jnani. Both knowledge and ignorance are not true from the standpoint of the jnani. Questioner. Is the jnani capable or likely to commit sins? Asks the questioner. That means if to him knowledge and ignorance are not there and he is not bound by them, can he do whatever he wants, including sins? Bhagavan. An ajnani sees someone as a jnani and identifies him with the body. Because he does not know the self and mistakes his body for the self, he extends the same mistake to the state of the jnani. The jnani is therefore considered to be the physical frame. Again, since the ajnani, though he is not the doer, yet imagines himself to be the doer and considers the actions of the body his own, he thinks the jnani to be similarly acting when the body is active. But the jnani himself knows the truth and is not confounded. The state of a jnani cannot be determined by the ajnani, and therefore the question troubles only the ajnani and never does it arise for the jnani. If he is a doer, he must determine the nature of the actions. The self cannot be the doer. Find out who is the doer, and the self is revealed. We go back to the verse again. Those with body consciousness, when they see a perfected jnani who abides as that, ask in an attempt to define the state of supreme jnana, look, if their state is non-dual, then how can they perform activities such as eating and so on? Then such people are in fact proclaiming their own identification with the inert body and nothing else. And when we read how Bhagavan would do those activities, including binding, reading, taking care, all those with perfection. Now, when these thoughts arise in us, Bhagavan says, ask for whom is this thought? Because that represents that when we say that Bhagavan is that body which lived for 70 years, that only indicates that we are identifying with our own body. To the Maharani who says that she wants to see the unchanging God in everyone, she doesn't want to see them as the mortal, changing body. To her, Bhagavan gives the clue that how can you see the unchanging self in them, which is actually the jnani, with these mortal eyes or with this mortal mind? How can you do that? To say that I imagine a person, maybe a jnani, outside of me, I can see him. And I imagine God in him, the unchanging self in him, Bhagavan says, is a mental activity, is a part and parcel of our own identification with the body. Therefore, to go within oneself and purge the consciousness of the mind, purge the consciousness of all thoughts, is to experience the unchanging self within, the unchanging nature of God within, and that itself is seeing the self in all. There are no two actions in this. To see the God in all, to see the unchanging self in all one has to do is go within and remove the contents from the consciousness. Remove the thoughts from the consciousness. The thought-free consciousness is felt as God, Bhagavan says in that answer. That is the simultaneous perception of the truth of everyone. That is the simultaneous knowing of the unchanging self in all. One need not use the mind to see God in all. One has to see the supreme self within oneself. That itself is simultaneous perception of the God in whomever you had imagined them to be earlier. And a devotee comes and asks, should I not leave my wife? Should I not leave my family and go to the forest and meditate? Bhagavan asks, find out who your wife is. Find out who your family are. Find out who you are. You will know that they are not the changing parts. They are the Supreme Self. And that is the finding their truth and finding your own truth in one single act. And that itself, abiding as the self itself, is the finding of the truth of the jnani. To be a jnani is to know the truth of the jnani. To be an ajnani and try to imagine the truth of the jnani will make us go round and round in thoughts and will be display of our own ajnana, our own identification with our inner body, the mortal frame, and nothing more than that. To understand what Bhagavan is revealing as jnana, one has to remove the thoughts within and be that thought-free consciousness oneself. And when one discovers the truth of oneself, one understands that is the truth of all. The truth being one need not make any other effort to move away from that. To know the truth of all, including the jnani, including the Subramanya Swami, whom he worshipped with name and form, and including that deity who guided you all through. The truth of that deity too is found inside as the thought-free consciousness, which is one's own true nature. Till that is realized to be natural, till that is realized to be our effortless freedom, our effortless nature, one should make the effort not to find out what is the truth of the other person, not to find out the truth of Subramanya Swami who has guided you, or whatever deity you worship, not to find out the truth of Ravana, but to find out one's own truth, to find out who I am, and that itself, the answer to that one quest, will be the answer to what is all this world, what is all these relationships, and who a jnani too is. To know a jnani is to be a jnani. For that, with immense faith in Bhagavan, whose grace has brought us to the supreme sadhana of Atmacharya, let us sit and remove the consciousness within of thoughts, of identification with the gross, the subtle, and the causal body, and inquire for whom is this thought. The answer will come, this thought is for me. Who am I? Hold that. Take the eye back to the source. Let there not be any identification with the stula, with the sukshma, or the karana. Let one be identified with the thought-free consciousness with effort. With effort, when one identifies with that again and again, like the flow of oil, when that identification with effort, with the thought-free state is continuous, then by Bhagavan's grace, one is able to rest in that effortlessly. Till such effortless abidance happens naturally, let us all make the effort of inquiring who am I. With Bhagavan's immense grace, let us sit in Atma Ucharan for 10 minutes. Vaibhavji, you set the time for us.
Yes, sir, I'll do that.
Bhagavate Shri Ramana. I request our President, Sharadaka, to give us the summing up remarks.
Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as the self in all beings. Sadhu Swami has 2 songs. One song, he says, Yendraikku nee arivayo maname, andraikke shanti adaivaai. Ramananin ராஜ்யத்தில் அதர்மமே இல்லை என்று என்றைக்கு நீ அறிவாயோ மனமே அன்றைக்கே சாந்தி அடைவாய். Only when you understand that there is nothing wrong, there is no adharma, there is nothing unrighteous happening in the kingdom of Bhagavan, that is when you will attain peace, he says. So, Muruganatha Swami has put down for us Bhagavan's words on the importance of faith. And in another song, Sadhu Swami says, உன்னை விட உன்மேல் கவலை உள்ள பெருமான் ரமணன். Ramana is more concerned about you than you are about yourself. See, maximum our entire concern is only for ourselves in this life. Otherwise, there is no problem at all. Others are because they are related to me. So, Sadhu Swami says, உன்னை விட உன்மேல் கவலை உள்ள பெருமான் ரமணன் அன்றோ, முன்னர் இதனை உணர்ந்து விட்டால் முடிந்தது எல்லா சாதனையும். If you understand that Bhagavan is more concerned about you than you are about yourself, then all sadhana is over, he says. Because when faith comes, then all the worries, all the anxieties, all the need to do anything, everything will be dropped. If we have faith, for instance, in Bhagavan's words, that our nature is happiness and our nature alone is happiness, then why will thought rise after that? Our entire sadhana is only to build up this faith. And self-inquiry is the means to build this faith because it gives us the direct experience of it. Those of us who are blessed with faith without having to have direct experience, the moment Bhagavan says, the moment we hear a word about him, if we have the complete faith, as the examples were given by Nandakumarji or Ramanacentre Brahmachari or Mudrayar Pati or Kaulakshmi, then there is no need for anything further. Mudindadella sadhanayum, Sadhu Swami has said. But if there are doubts, then how do we set these doubts away? By inquiring into the primary, the doubter. Otherwise, doubts are endless. That's what the second meditation has shown us. Doubts will be endless. Some form or doubt or the other. Thought itself is doubt. The rise of thought means there is a doubt. The rise of thought means there is lack of faith. Lack of faith in the fact that the self alone is the source of all joy. The self alone is all answers. The self alone is all knowledge. We don't have that faith. So we want to seek knowledge outside. We want to seek happiness outside. That's why Bhagavan says in that second, he says there will be no desire. If one has this full faith, then there will be no desire further. There will be no anxiety, no desire. So our sadhana is in order to nurture this faith, as Muruganatha Swami says. Little bit faith we do have. If we did not have faith, we cannot be brought to this satsang. It is not that we are totally lacking in faith also. There is some half light. So that half light has to be turned into full light This light which Bhagavan has given us, the light of self-inquiry, the light of devotion to Him, has to be nurtured. And each nurtures the other. Self-inquiry nurtures our faith by giving us the anubhava directly of who Bhagavan is. Self-inquiry gives us the anubhava directly of the joy of our own nature, that the absolute lack of necessity to turn outward can only come with the experience of one's own true nature. So self-inquiry will give us that, but by force of habit or vasana, it goes out, then again we have to nurture that faith. So if the mind has thoughts, we can recognize that there is absence of faith. Absence of faith in Bhagavan's words, that we are the self only is joy, the self only is bliss. Because of absence of faith in Bhagavan's words telling us this, we are moving towards some object in order to grasp it. So when we try, again we have to do the inquiry. And Bhagavan has pointed out here that it may be the doubt about the nature of the jnani, it may be any kind of doubt which arises. Ultimately, every thought which arises is a doubt about the Supreme. Actually, Kurayen Seiden in Aksharamanamala is there. Nandakumarji would say that thought is the primary kurai, because when the thought arises, that means I find a kurai. I find a kurai means I am already finding a kurai in God only. Because where else can I find anything? If I have any lacuna, I am finding it in God. If I find it in myself, I am finding it in God. If I find it in anybody else, I am finding it in God. So to nurture that faith, we must do self-inquiry. And to nurture self-inquiry, we have to have the faith in Bhagavan, that He alone has brought us to the self-inquiry. He alone is sustaining the self-inquiry. He alone is the very fruit of self-inquiry. That faith, we must repeatedly, how do we have it? Just by telling ourselves, instead of thinking of other things, let us think about this in order to nurture that. If at all any doubt arises, let us remind ourselves, that's all. And how many opportunities He is providing us to remind ourselves by giving us His own life, by giving us the company of fellow devotees, by giving us His words. Through all this, He is again and again, He is helping us to nurture, support. He Himself is the father and mother, no? So this newborn child is also His child. So He also nurtures it for us. Otherwise, how will it remain and how will it grow? So we have His full support in our love for Him, just as we have in self-inquiry. And further, what can we say? There are actually no words to express, only as Muruganara Swami says, Enna kai mare. What can we say? What have you done for us? He says, Muruganara Swami. Immaye ammaya. You have actually converted this false reality which you have converted it to the truth. You have converted tunbame inbama. You have converted all my sorrow into bliss. So what can I do except enna kai mare? I can only say, what can I do? What can I do? Even that, as Nandakumarji pointed out, even that is not required. Even that will become redundant. To see Bhagavan as separate would also become redundant in a way, and in a way nothing will be redundant, because in that self everything will be included. As we see the great ones, we see that everything is done by them perfectly. But if we see it that, oh, Bhagavan is doing something perfectly, even to say that means there can be some imperfection. How else will Bhagavan do? If I say, oh, Bhagavan is doing this very perfectly, as if it can be otherwise for me to make a statement like that. So that will become all-inclusive and revealed by itself at the ripeness of its own gracious plan. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri.
Namo Ramanaka. I request Vaibhavji and Pratnama to commence the Ashtotram.
नमो रमण भारद्वाज विश्वनाथ विरचितं श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनामावलिः अपार सच्चित् सुखवारिराशय यस्योमि मात्रं भुवनं समस्तं गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरं चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि ॐ महासेन महोंसेन जाताय नमः ॐ श्रीरमणाय नमः ॐ गुरवे नमः ॐ अखण्ड संविदाकाराय नमः ॐ ऊर्जसे नमः ॐ कारणोद्भवाय नमः ॐ जगद्गीतावताराय नमः ॐ श्रीभूमिनाथस्थलोस्थिताय नमः ॐ कुलोत्तंसाय नमः ॐ सुन्दरार्यत्पप्पलाय नमः ॐ मणियसुचारित्राय नमः ॐ सहायाम्बा सहायवते नमः ॐ सोणाचलमहोलीनमानसाय नमः ॐ स्वर्णहस्तकाय नमः ॐ श्रीमद्वादशान्तमहास्थैलब्धविद्याय नमः ॐ श्रीपातेन प्रबुद्धाय नमः ॐ माधविदे नमः ॐ विद्राय नमः ॐ पितृपदान्वेषिणे नमः ॐ इन्दुमौलिना पितृमते नमः ॐ पितुरादेशतः षोडशैलं प्राप्ताय नमः ॐ सोमयाय नमः ॐ उदासीनाय नमः ॐ महायोगिने नमः ॐ उत्साहाय नमः ॐ कुशाग्रधिये नमः ॐ शान्तसङ्कल्पसंरम्भाय नमः ॐ सुसन्दृशे नमः ॐ सवित्रे नमः ॐ स्थिराय नमः ॐ तपक्षपितसर्वाङ्गाय नमः ॐ भुजविलोचनाय नमः ॐ चन्द्रिकासितहासश्रीमण्डिताननमण्डलाय नमः ॐ चूर्णमाट्यं समासीनाय नमः ॐ चूर्णिताखिलविभ्रमाय नमः ॐ वेदवेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञाय नमः ॐ चिन्मुद्रिणे नमः ॐ त्रिगुणाधिगाय नमः ॐ विरूपाक्षगुहावासाय नमः ॐ विराजतिचलाकृतये नमः ॐ उदितनयनाय नमः ॐ गुणाय नमः ॐ जलदाण्डवाय नमः ॐ चुवीराय नमः ॐ ब्रह्माचार्याय नमः ॐ सुरसन्नाय नमः ॐ अभयप्रदाय नमः ॐ दक्षिणाशनिभाय नमः ॐ धीराय नमः ॐ दक्षिणाभिमुखाय नमः ॐ स्वराजे नमः ॐ महर्षये नमः ॐ भगवते नमः ॐ वीर्याय नमः ॐ भूमविद्याविशारदाय नमः ॐ विमलाय नमः ॐ वीरदर्शिने नमः ॐ आप्ताय नमः ॐ ऋजुमार्गप्रदर्शकाय नमः ॐ समदृशे नमः ॐ सत्यदृशे नमः ॐ सत्याय नमः ॐ प्रशान्ताय नमः ॐ अविदविक्रमाय नमः ॐ सुकुमाराय नमः ॐ सदानन्दाय नमः ॐ मृदुभाषिणे नमः ॐ प्रणवाय नमः ॐ श्रीशूर्णाचलम्बोधस्कन्दाश्रमनिकेतनाय नमः ॐ दर्शनोपदेष्ट्रे नमः ॐ अधिवृताय नमः ॐ गणेशमुनिभृङ्गेन सेविताङ्घ्रिसरोरुहाय नमः ॐ गीतोपदेशसारादिग्रन्थसञ्चिन्न संशयाय नमः ॐ वर्णाश्रममतातीताय नमः ॐ रसज्ञाय नमः ॐ शून्याय नमः ॐ आत्मरहते नमः ॐ सर्वावनिमतस्थानाम् आराध्याय नमः ॐ सर्वसद्गुणिने नमः ॐ आप्तारमाय नमः ॐ भागाय नमः ॐ मुक्तिविधायकाय नमः ॐ विमलाय नमः ॐ विनुताय नमः ॐ विप्राय नमः ॐ मुनीन्द्राय नमः ॐ पावकोज्ज्वलाय नमः ॐ अर्शनादकसंहारिणे नमः ॐ मौनेन स्वात्मबोधकाय नमः ॐ ऋचान्निकरसानिध्याय नमः ॐ सिंहबन्धमोचकाय नमः ॐ अन्तस्तिमिरचण्डांशवे नमः ॐ संसाराणवतारकाय नमः ॐ षष्टिद्रश्रे नमः ॐ आत्मव्याघ्रकाशकाय नमः ॐ अत्वितनिजप्रज्ञाय नमः ॐ नैसर्गिकमहातपस्वे नमः ॐ कमण्डलुधराय नमः ॐ शूद्रकौपीनवसनाय नमः ॐ गुहाय नमः ॐ दण्डपाणये नमः ॐ कृपापूर्णाय नमः ॐ भवरोगविषग्वराय नमः ॐ स्कन्दाय नमः ॐ आहुतमाय नमः ॐ अमर्त्याय नमः ॐ स्कन्दाय नमः ॐ आहुतमाय नमः ॐ श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनामपूजां समर्पयामि यस्थानोररुणाचलस्य पदयोः स्मृत्याजनिं प्राप्यत दिव्यानुग्रहसुप्रवाहविवश तादात्म्यभावं गतः
ऋन्निष्ठस्वकबीरजित्यतपसा लोकान्गुणासेकराट्
तस्मै श्रीरमणाय ते नमः लोकोत्तरज्योतिषे
नमो रमण, thank you.
Namo Ramana, Pratana.